Like many fellow minorities growing up in America, I have struggled with my sense of identity my whole life. I was lucky enough to grow up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, a diverse city where the Asian population ranks second to whites. My parents had immigrated from South Korea to work on their PhDs at the University of Michigan. We lived in student housing with many other Korean families, which helped to create a very tight-knit community within our neighborhood. The parents helped each other cooking food to share, tutoring the kids, or babysitting while the parents attended class. All of us children spoke Korean as our first and only language until we started school. So from my childhood experience, I not only felt a closeness with the Asian community, but I also felt a sense of belonging. When I started elementary school, I was put into an ESL class. I tested out of the class pretty quickly, but I asked to stick around for the remaining year because I enjoyed being with the students so much. I also started making friends with the kids in my non-ESL class. Here I was getting to play with my Korean friends and holding on to the world that I was familiar with. And I also got to add on a whole new world of friends. It was a very fun school year for me. My closeness with the Korean community early on in life, and then attending American schools, allowed me to experience both cultures without having to sacrifice one for the other. This also helped me to avoid questioning my bicultural identity. Adults would sometimes ask, "Christine, do you think you're Korean or you're American? Which do you like more?" And my response would be, "Both? I don't understand what you're asking. I'm Christine." As I was finishing second grade, my parents completed their studies and decided to move back to Korea. I was sad to leave my friends, but excited for a new adventure in my own country. We found an apartment in Seoul, and I started third grade at a Korean public school. Right away, I felt like a fish out of water. The conversational Korean I had used at home with my family was different from the technical Korean used at school. I could not speak the language as fluently as the other students, partly because I was used to speaking English, and partly because I was scared. I could not read the textbooks as fast, and even if I could read it, I didn't understand what a lot of the words meant. It was difficult to make friends as a new kid. There was one particular girl who bullied me because she did not like that I was from America. I had never been bullied before in my life, and it was very jarring to have a girl who looked like me and talked like me, treating me like I was a disease that you could catch. One day during class, I really had to go to the bathroom, but the teacher would not dismiss me because it was not the designated bathroom hours. On top of it, the bully started her daily harassment of calling me foul names and throwing things at me. I couldn't hold it any longer, and I accidentally peed my pants while I was sitting at my desk. I was so mortified and scared the bully would find out that I stood up and I ran home in the middle of class. I arrived home crying to my mom, telling her how I felt so out of place and alone. At this point, my parents decided it was not safe for me, so we moved to a more suburban location outside of the bustling city. Thanks to my parents, I got to start my fourth grade at a whole new school, but I still had trouble making friends. Although I was getting more familiar with the rules and how to fit in, kids still excluded me because I was new and different. So I decided to try a new strategy and make the first move to share my American culture with the students instead of competing with our differences. I started by offering to teach them English curse words, because let's be honest, what kid wouldn't want to learn forbidden phrases in a foreign language? Once I started to make more friends, I offered to show them how to write their names in English so they could learn how to write it on their own. It felt good to be able to use my cultural difference as a kind of currency instead of being scared of our differences. And just like that, I quickly became one of the most popular kids at school because of my American difference. As I was entering sixth grade, my parents told me we were moving back to the States. I was nervous about reuniting with my friends from back home after 3 years of being in a different country. In the last 12 years, I had had to toggle my linguistic brain from Korean to English to Korean, and now back to English. And I kid you not, I could not articulate confidently in either language for at least a week when I first arrived. It was a very quiet week. Fortunately, my English came back to me, and I was back in the game. My old friends were excited to see me, which helped me to better adapt to the American culture quickly. I was excited to share my Korean culture with my friends, like I had shared my American culture with my Korean friends. For lunch, I would always bring Korean food, especially if it was stinky. And I proudly shared it with my non-Asian friends. I taught them how to use chopsticks and introduced them to their very first K-pop experience. I showed them how to do origami, and I brought them gifts from Korea, like gel pens and hair accessories. At this point, I asked my parents if I could officially make my middle name my Korean name, which is Pyeongju. They responded with an enthusiastic yes. Needless to say, I was very proud to be Korean. The next few years went by fast, and we were already graduating and getting ready to enter high school. My mom had done her own research into the different schools in our area, and she recommended that I go to Community High. This high school was known for its unique approach to a traditional school system. It focused on the individual and kept its student body size small, so students wouldn't disappear into the crowd. The teachers were able to build strong relationships with the students and knew most of them by name. But what really set Community apart was this concept of forum, a close-knit group of 15 to 20 students led by a faculty member. Each student is placed in a forum their first year, so you really get to know and bond with your group for the rest of high school. This allows you to meet other students who you may not have met otherwise, and it provided you with a sense of family and belonging. I quickly found my own place there with my own forum, embraced by my friends, embraced by my teachers and counselors. I felt I really belonged. Fast forward to sophomore year's finals week. I was finishing up my French exam when I was asked to go to the dean's office. My dad had been diagnosed with cancer a few years back, and he was on his last legs, so it did not come as a surprise that my mom had called to say it was time to come home and say goodbye. The dean personally drove me home that day. My dad passed away that evening. The school was incredibly supportive. They designated a special room for me to use if I wanted to step out and cry or just be alone. The school counselor checked in on me every day. My schoolmates had sent flowers upon flowers to my family and made sure to let me know how much they cared. It was an incredible show of love from not just my friends, but the whole school. The week my dad died, I got into a yelling match with my best friend over something trivial. Her family was a part of our tight-knit Korean community. Our parents were close, and we had known each other since we were 3. I always considered them my second parents. Her mom had overheard our fighting, and she told her daughter to stop speaking to me. I told my mom what happened, and she took me to my friend's house to apologize. I still remember her mom opening the door and never asking us to come inside. She did not accept my apology and told me her daughter was not allowed to be my friend anymore. I was devastated. To my surprise, my mom touched my shoulder and gently whispered, "You did everything you were supposed to do. Let's walk away. You don't deserve this." It was one of the first times that I really felt my father's absence and my identity as the fatherless child. In the Korean culture, it is taboo to associate yourself with people who do not have a solid family background, such as children of divorce, adopted kids, or people who lose their parents at a young age. The belief is that a lot of negative traits come along with an unstable home life, and parents do not want this to negatively influence their own children. At age 15, I didn't understand this, and I took it personally. Losing this particular friend created a rift between me and the Korean community. I didn't trust or like my own people for a long time after that. With the loss of my dad, my mom had to find a job, and she landed a position with a university in New York. Within 6 months of my father's death, we had to sell the home we grew up in and our dogs because New York apartments are too small, and say goodbye to family and friends. I was leaving everything I knew behind, once again. When we arrived in Cortland, New York, I could instantly feel how different the city was from back home. We were one of the few Asians who lived there, so people knew we had arrived before we had even officially moved in. My mom and I went to see a movie at the local theater that first week. When I got to school the following Monday, some of the students told me that they had seen me at the theater or heard about me from their friends. It was creepy, like everyone was watching us, like the Truman Show. Everywhere I went, I felt like the token Asian. It was unsettling to me that there were no Asian grocery stores, no Asian restaurants, not even a Korean church. Although I had made some good friends there, it felt suffocating and scary to be in a new place where I stuck out so much, especially at a time when all I wanted to do was blend in and disappear. After the year was over, my mom let me move back to Ann Arbor because she saw how hard it was for me to adapt and grieve at the same time. This would be the first time I was on my own without my parents, and the beginning of a long journey of self-discovery that continues to this day. For the next several years, I would complete high school and barely get through the first years of college. I had a hard time identifying myself proudly as Korean. I felt lost and confused, angry and resentful. I found myself talking negatively about my own people and keeping friends at arm's length, afraid of rejection. I would proudly say, I don't hang out with Asians because I don't want to be cliquey. I want to meet other people. But it was really fear talking, and I knew it, but I didn't have the heart to confront it. I missed my family, and I missed being a part of a community. After graduating from college, I entered the workforce. Over the span of 6 years, I noticed a surprising pattern. In every job, I found myself gravitating towards Asians. I started to crave that sense of belonging to a community that had once been so important to me. I realized that I was finally ready to forgive my past, and I was ready to come back home. I am extremely grateful to my parents for giving me the opportunity to experience both cultures so deeply and thoroughly. I am who I am because of my heritage, my culture, and my experiences. I am proud to be American. I am proud to be Korean, and I am proud to be Christine Byungju Lee. Thank you.